Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julie, keeper of my home. Now, if you've been following me on my community board, I haven't posted this on my channel yet, but on my community board I mentioned that I am following the Three Rivers Challenge of doing it's a pantry challenge for the month of January and February. My husband and I have decided that we are just going to shop our home for foods. We are not going to be shopping in a supermarket, grocery store, anywhere for our food. We have a lot stored up here, and we've decided that this is something we really want to do. So if you follow Three Rivers Homestead, she has documented this for several years. She also has an Instagram, and you can find more information there. I have some notes, by the way, so if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes because I want to cover everything and I don't want to forget anything. But the rules for everyone are different. Her family, she explains that they have a dairy allergy, so they're not relying on, they don't have to worry about dairy and getting milk and what have you for throughout these 2 months. We are not a completely dairy-free home. We don't eat a lot of dairy. Neither one of us drink milk, but I do use it in baking. But we do have milk in our freezer, and we also keep dry milk on hand. Dry milk, canned milk. We keep those on hand all the time, specifically for cooking. So I have that, if I need it. So it's not something that we use a lot of, but we do use it, and it's convenient to have it in dry form. So for us, we are going to our rules for us, and you want to do what works for you and your family. But for us, we are going whole home. We're doing all things, for the next 2 months, except for medicine. My husband, as some of you may know, is a type 1 diabetic, and so we rely heavily on, medication for him, and he's insulin dependent. So any medications, things like that, emergency stuff, that's not going to be included in this. That's all excluded. Everything else, household items, all of that stuff, we are not shopping for anything. We do have 2 birthdays that fall, January and February, for our kids. And those birthdays we've chosen to do homemade gifts. I'm going to try really hard at this. This is really important to me, and it's also very important to my husband. So for us, we are going whole home, and I do a meal plan. I typically do a meal plan anyway, so that's something that I've done since our kids were little. It's a little looser now, as it's just my husband and I, but I feel like following a meal plan is really good because, a lot of our stuff is stored in the freezer, and if I'm not following a meal plan in planning ahead, I'm pulling out last minute frozen stuff, and that's not, going to work very well for us. So planning ahead helps me to make sure that I've pulled out what I need out of the freezer, or prepped anything that needs prepping beforehand, just save time. Or, if I need bread, making sure everything is done ahead, English muffins, hamburger buns, because all of that is homemade. All of those things, having those done ahead of time is, that's necessary. So meal plan works for that. Now also, documenting all of this. A meal plan will document this. And I'm going to be sharing a lot of this stuff with you throughout the week as we go along this challenge. Okay, so are we spending more money to do this? No, we are not spending more money because we are not buying ahead to be able to do this. We are only using foods that we have here already. We're not spending any extra money, and we're going the next 2 months without purchasing anything. So that is a savings for us. one of the points of this pantry challenge for us is we were going through our freezer one day and noticing some stuff in there that we hadn't realized we had put in there. We were like digging way down to the bottom. And there's a lot of things in there. I was like, told my husband, I said, oh my word, I don't remember putting this in here. Or, you know, how many of these did we have in here anyway? I mean, it feels like we, you know, have bags and bags and bags of bananas and, you know, so many bags of sweet potatoes. And we haven't been using this. We've, you know, it's stuff we've forgotten that we had, or out of sight, out of mind, I guess. So those are things that it's good to go through those because we're not wasting it, if that makes sense. Things in the freezer are only lasting so much time. They have a shelf life, even in the freezer. So going through that, we're using up foods. So for me, I guess it's saving money because we're not wasting. If we were to continue to do, you know, to just buy food each week or however often we do it, we'd be buying and kind of compounding what's already there. But going through our freezer and seeing what we had gave us the opportunity to realize we already have so much. We don't need to buy any more for the next 2 months. We really don't. We have plenty in our freezer. One thing that my husband and I do a lot of is when I meal plan, we never learned how to downsize for just the two of us for some reason. We've always cooked for a big family, so cooking is kind of more or less stayed the same. So when we make a casserole, we do it and we eat what we're going to eat out of it, and then the rest of it I cut into serving size pieces, and I wrap each individual piece in plastic, and then I put it into a Ziploc or some type of freezer safe container, and I date it. I put the amount that's in there, the serving size, and what it is, because trust me, you're not going to remember what it is down the road. We always think that we will, but we don't always, and I've learned my lesson on that. So we put that into the freezer to have at a later date. It's, for us, convenience food, because when we've had a really long day, we've had a lot of things to get through, haven't had time to really plan anything, we can pull that out really quick, microwave, or, you know, throw something in the cook stove and heat that up really good and quick, and we have a meal. It's all prepared, something I didn't have to work all day doing. So that's always, you know, that's another thing we have in our freezer to be able to utilize and go through and not waste. So also, we have a lot of nuts and flours and grains and things in our freezer, and those have a shelf life too, and we don't want those to go rancid, so it's good to use those up. If we don't use those up, and if we keep them thinking, you know, well, I don't know, the price of this might go up later on, I should hang on to it. Well, it's not going to be any good later on. It is going to go rancid after time. So even in your freezer. So that's one thing that we know, and that's another benefit of cycling through that as well. Allowing your food to go bad is waste. So I feel like it would be more wasteful to allow that to go bad and not use it than it would be to go ahead and do this pantry challenge. So also, we rely a lot on leftovers. Like I said, we package a lot of this stuff up, we put it in our freezer, and we use it later on. We rely on those leftovers. And a lot of the time, I create meals based on how I can stretch it. That was something that I learned from my mom when I was little growing up, because I came from a family of 8. There were 6 kids and my parents, and we grew up on a farm. We raised all of our own meat. We had our own garden, a huge garden, and we raised chickens. So we had eggs, and we also had the chickens. We had hundreds of chickens. And so we had all of that. We were very self-sustainable, and my mom was very diligent about meal planning. And so leftovers and planning her meals, she would plan anything that would stretch. So say I mean, you've seen me do this on my channel before. We have had a chicken. We've roasted a chicken, and that chicken later on becomes a chicken stew or a chicken soup. And once we've eaten what we're going to eat out of that, that becomes a chicken pot pie. So I'm stretching this, and that's how we stretch our what we're using in our food stores as well. So I'm constantly keeping in mind, how can I use this in a way where I can use it for more than one meal and move it along so that it's going to feed us through the week. So that is something you might want to consider if this is, you know, a challenge that you want to do for your family. I'm so glad to have a mom who taught me those things. So another thing I did mention, where we don't rely on the food supply, the food chain, to supply us with our food. My husband and I are really big into gardening and growing our own food. And we feel like God provides. You know, I'm gonna get teary-eyed. I walk out in my yard in the summer, and a lot of people will spray their yard because they are like, oh my gosh, these dandelions, they're everywhere. I would just want to see the green grass. I go out there and I see the dandelions and I think, thank you, Lord, for providing, because those dandelions, they provide greens for us. They provide jam for us. You know, I have a video on dandelion jelly if you want to see how to make that. I mean, it tastes amazing. It tastes just like honey. And, you know, those are things that we have an abundance of blackberries that grow around us, raspberries that grow around us, hazelnuts. We have an orchard. We have 2 orchards. We have an older orchard and a younger orchard. And we have our garden. We have our chickens. We have eggs. Our son lives next door, and we help him raise beef and pigs and meat chickens. And, you know, we have all of this stuff. God has provided us with the ability to do these things, and he's provided Mother Nature with all of these things that we can go and forage, you know, around us. And maybe you don't live in an area where you're able to do that, and that's okay. You know, do what you can for your area. But I know for us, I feel wasteful if I'm not using all of this that's around me. So we are able to, you know, have a lot of things to put away, make a lot of foods to put away, and can a lot of things. And so that's why we're able to do this. Another thing about this challenge is that we feel that by doing this, we know that we are very blessed. We are very blessed people. And we feel like this helps us to be even more grateful because we're relying on what God has provided for us. And he'll never let us go without. We will always be provided for our needs. And we find a lot of comfort in that. Now, we do know that there are some things that you do need to purchase from a store. We couldn't go indefinitely without. Although we have tried to make do with as little as possible and do as much as we can here at home. I do make our own laundry detergent. I make our own dish soap. And we no longer use paper napkins. We haven't used them for a couple of years now. We use cloth napkins, and they can be washed and reused, so it's not wasteful. I felt like using paper towels all the time was so wasteful, and you know, it's just adding to you know, the garbage and the landfill, and we just didn't feel for us like we wanted to do that. So there are some things that as much of what we can pare down to, we are doing that. So we are less reliant on what the stores have for us. So at the end of all of this pantry challenge, if you would like to follow this, please tag hashtag threeriverschallenge, and let me know in the comments below if you are going to follow along. Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead started this, like I said, about 4 years ago. She's been doing it for 5 years, and this is our first year of doing this, and I really feel like if we can go longer than the 2 months, I really feel like we're going to. We can always replenish our food we've got a garden that we're planting, that we're growing, and like I said, we have all the food that we grow as well. We have what God provides us as well. So, we'll replenish this. We're not going to use it up and not have it. God has provided us with the talent and with all of this abundance of food around us. And so, things to make tea. We are big tea drinkers. We collected a lot of our raspberry leaves and raspberries, and we dried a lot of our blueberries and blackberries and different things for tea. We have an herb garden, so we collected all of those as well, and we grow a lot of sage and thyme, and there's so much that you can do, and this all prepares us for this. And years ago they didn't have supermarkets that you could run to, and our ancestors did this, and they managed quite well without having to go to a grocery store. So I think that we can do this too. So thank you so much for listening to me babble. And I hope you try this challenge. Even if you can't do it fully, just maybe reduce your budget and say, I'm going to cut my grocery budget into a third and try to work with that, or cut it in half or try to work with that. However you want to do it, try, and if this is something you want to do, and we know that you can do this, and we wish you luck at it. And Happy New Year, everyone. And I just want to thank you so much for following me. All of my new subscribers, thank you so much for following me here. We have truly been blessed. We have really moved up in subscribers, and that blesses us. My husband lost his job this year, so growing this channel is very important to us, and it's hopefully going to be something that we can turn into an income that will support us. We just thank you. We thank you so much. We are truly blessed, and may God bless you and keep you. Until next time.